Welcome to Labor's View. This show is brought to you by the very hard-working and dedicated employees, non-supervisory, of the Essex County Division of Welfare. I'm David Weiner, President of Local 1081 of the Communication Workers of America and host of Labor's View. This evening our guest is the esteemed CEO of the United Way of Essex and West Hudson, Mr. Keith Green. Welcome, Keith.
Thank you.
I must say, what's the expression I always say when they want to say they have connections with people or things? For full disclosure, I'm on the board of the United Way and have been, I think, at least 20 years.
Right.
I actually chaired the board once, at least once. That's before you got there, well before you got there. So let's start with some brief biographical. Who is Keith Green?
Well, Keith is the son of Christine Rice and John Green, and I'm one of 6 siblings, the eldest. Went to school raised in Los Angeles, went to high school, elementary, junior high, all in high school, all in Los Angeles. Went away to college, came back and started working as an engineer. That was my formal education.
Okay.
And then my company's division was sold to Hughes Aircraft, and 12,000 people were impacted. And so we had a choice: go to Tucson or take a package and stay in LA. I took a package and stayed in LA. I became involved in United Way through my company. We had a loan to executive program where they lend executive types to the United Way, and the company pays their salary. And that's kind
for
of
a period of time, not
for a period of 6 months.
6 months.
I mean, 6 weeks, some up to 3 months.
Right.
And that was kind of my foray into United Way. And so when I lost my job, the woman at the office I lead at called and said, "Hey, I hear you may be looking for a job." And that started my United Way career in Los Angeles. And I was in several positions with increasing levels of responsibility in Los Angeles until I came here in 2007.
What was your last, were you vice president? I forgot. What was
Senior Vice President of Administration.
And how big is the LA, because it must be huge compared to...
Well, the Los Angeles United Way is one of the top 10 United Ways in the nation.
I imagine.
They raise about $95 million. I don't know what they're raising today, but generally when I was there, they were raising somewhere in the 90 million.
So that's, what do we call them, level ones or something?
Metro ones.
Metro ones,
Mm-hmm.
That's the term.
They were a Metro 1C.
Okay, and you came here, and I actually was on the committee, as I've been for several years, of
You
picking...
were the search chair.
Was I?
Yes.
I knew it was on the committee, but yes. And it came down between you and my friend, actually who's now the mayor. I think it was that was the time, or maybe it was the other time with Maria, your predecessor. But it was the mayor of Maplewood, Vic DeLuca.
Oh, Vic. Okay.
Vic, either with your time or Maria's time, Vic was one of the finalists.
Okay.
But being my friend, I didn't choose him. No, I just recused myself.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing very well as mayor of Maplewood, even though they don't have civil service, Vic. Just a brief, I noted it. It's interesting about the loan executive program, because back when I first came on the board of the United Way, and I forgot how I got on there. I think it was through Tom Giblin, who's the president
Probably.
of Local 68, also an assemblyman. Local 68 is a big 6,000 member statewide. They operate the boilers and stuff in all the buildings. And just as a quick aside, soon after I was there, they told me they were going to, the board decided they were going, I didn't know what the heck was going on, and they said they were going to cut off $300-something thousand funding to the YMCA. I don't know if you know this story.
No, I don't.
Yeah, they were going to cut off the funding because the Y was really in a mess. Their CEO was allegedly involved with some not good stuff. He's an older guy. And I said, wait a minute, I grew up in Newark. I lived in Weequahic Park in public housing. I lived in South Boyden projects. So then I lived in Ivy Hill. So I've lived, I never lived in a house in my life until almost 30. So I said, I used to go to the Y. I don't want the Y closed down because it would have closed them down. They
Right.
said, well, then you go over there and see what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So I did. I went over, checked it out, worked with the group, and then, like a schmuck, I let myself get. My father always said to me, never volunteer. He was in the Army. I never listened to him. I volunteered for everything. But that's how I got on the Y board, where I've been for 20-something years.
The Y board or the United Way board?
Both.
Oh, okay.
No, I used to chair the Y board
Oh,
as
so
well.
volunteering got you on the Y boards.
Well, no, they said, okay, if you don't want to cut the 300,000, then go help fix whatever
Help
the
them,
problem is.
right.
And we ended up saving the 300,000,
Oh, great.
and we're still around. Not because of just it was a group effort.
It's a point in time.
A point in time. So, right now, the United Way has a very special time coming up, or is this year. What was it? Do we know the date we were incorporated, or just the year?
Well, it was late. It was November 1923.
Okay,
Uh,
23.
yes. I believe the date was November 23rd, but I'm not clear on
I
that.
hope, considering the guy that's behind you, I hope it wasn't the 22nd, because poor President Kennedy's there. That's I believe it's the date he was assassinated.
Not in 1923.
No, but he might have been born in 23 actually, or there. No, he would have been born earlier. But we digress. So, or I do, not you. So it's the 90th anniversary.
Yes,
Of
the
the United
90th.
Way.
We're really proud of it, and we're working on doing a lot of different things in the community. Some of the things around, first we're going to make an announcement just to honor our founders and our current board members, and then we're going to kind of have, we don't think we should be doing a lot, but we're going to try to do something every month for 9 months that honors the the commemoration of the 90th birthday. So some of the things are already in place. In February, we have our Celebrity Read program, which is registered in the Library of Congress. It was registered by the former Congressman Payne,
Right. Donald Penn.
Donald Payne. And so we have that going. We're going to do...
Let's do it piece by piece, if I may. What is Celebrity Read?
Oh, Celebrity Read is a program where we have, throughout the month of February, we kick it off in January with a breakfast at the Newark Museum, and we have a number of volunteers, between 300 and 400 volunteers, come in and they read to preschool and elementary kids in our footprint. Belleville, the Oranges, Irvington, Kearney,
Newark.
Newark is the big one, and Harrison, and we just deploy volunteers to read because we know that reading is fundamental to the growth of a child, and we're part of the early grade reading campaign for the city of Newark. So that's one of the things that supports our goal around education. We know when kids are reading on grade level that they're destined to succeed in their life, and the converse is true if they're not reading on grade level.
Now, let's back up a little bit, because I didn't really didn't mention this. Briefly, how did in 1923, what was the history? Because that also, I think, is going to segue into one of the, I don't know, I haven't seen the full schedule, but I assume, are we honoring the gentleman who we always honor every year? Mr.
William Ashby?
Yeah.
That'll be later in the year.
Yeah.
We usually have an Ashby breakfast that honors his work done in the community.
Normally at the Newark Club, at least it used to be for years.
Well, we did it at the Newark Club, and then we moved it over to the Chase Room at NJPAC.
No offense, Newark Club, but it is closer. So Mr. Ashby, a little brief history on how, because we weren't the United Way to begin with.
No, we were actually called a federation, and then it was a federation and community chess. And then from that, in 1972, it actually received the name United Way of Essex and West Hudson and Community Chess, and then they dropped the Community Chess piece.
Got it.
And then shortly after that, there was a federation of the Council of Oranges and Maplewood, which became part of United Way, and to form a formal United Way we know today as United Way of Essex and West Hudson.
Okay, it's good to know. It's good to know the history.
Mm-hmm.
So what other events have you after the Celebrity Read?
So after the Celebrity Read, March is National Women's Month, and we have a Women's Leadership Council, and they're planning to do a series of speaking events around that. And the purpose of the Women's Council is research studies show that women raise more money generally than men, or at least they actually influence the purse of the man, the wallet of the man, so to speak.
Don't I know it?
And we're convening a group of women to actually shepherd and marshal some of the things that are important to them throughout the month of March. And then after that, they will choose pretty much an area they want to focus on, and that they will be similar to a giving circle. So they'll focus on, I think the focus is going to be on early grade reading.
Okay. I was noting that within, you spoke of footprints, and that was in reference to the areas that we represent.
Right.
And the West Hudson, meaning Kearney.
Right.
Anybody else?
Nutley. Is Nutley in
No,
that?
that's Essex.
Kearney and North Arlington.
Oh, that's Hudson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's actually in
Not Hudson,
Bergen
but
County.
It's West Essex. That's
Yeah,
what I mean,
right.
Actually, it's not even West Essex. That's weird.
It's in Bergen County out.
That is, yeah.
And I've asked around, and I don't really know how we got that, but we have it.
We'll take them. We'll take them. But what I was noting is, and we had this meeting the other day that you impressed me into, and I'm glad you did, because I happen to love this aspect of it. I love the historical concept of the 90 years, and particularly in relation, as we discussed, to the Newark area itself, because people, I don't think, in general, appreciate the age and the history of many of the edifices
Right.
in this area. And we discussed where most of my members are located is 18 Rector Street, which is right across the street from the YMCA. We have all 9 floors now, privately owned by Mr. Berger, who his corporation owns the Robert Treat Hotel.
Right.
They own this building we're sitting in now, 60 Park Place. I think he still co-owns Haynes across the street, or he did, and the old Baldwin Piano building. But 18 was built in 29, just before the Great Depression, just
right.
months before they finished the building. The Robert Treat, I think, was built in 22, and had people like Woodrow Wilson and many famous people, Sarah Vaughan, all kinds of people. So the historical, the museum, the Newark Museum is very, very old. The library is very, very old, and they're just on the other side of. This is military. Military Park is very, very old, and the statues and stuff. What is the other park over there? I should know that. Between
Washington Park.
Washington Park. But thank you, which makes sense because that's Washington Avenue. What a genius. So the historical aspect is important because you can then weave in the whole sociological need and provision aspect, which is what I think we're in part trying to do.
Exactly.
Okay, so what other events have we?
The other events, we have a group of young professionals that will be convening to do sort of an event and choose a target area that they want to focus on. Our general focus area is income, health, and education. So we want to minimize the dropout rate and increase the graduation rate. And we do that through the reading program, the Celebrity Read. We do that through reading on grade level. The financial stability income piece, we say financial stability, but we mean income. And we have a series of things around that. We have an individual development account that helps individuals that are below 200% of the poverty level save money.
The federal poverty level.
The federal poverty, yes. Save money, and they can use the money that they are leveraged. So they put in $1,000, we match it $4,000, and they can put it as a down payment on a home, finance a post-secondary education, or start a microenterprise.
In fact, if I'm telling tales out of school, just give me a high sound like this. But not that they can't see it because the camera's over here, but he can cut it out. At our last board meeting, which was last week, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I have a great memory. We had a young lady whom you guys presented, the staff presented, who is a graduate
of the IDA program.
Of the IDA program. Can you briefly recount her story, because it was really inspirational, and I think she's gonna take part in this 90
Yes, she is.
celebration as well.
Well, she signed up for it because she wanted to complete her master's degree, and she had been working, and she was really struggling to complete it. So when she got in the program, I imagine she met the guidelines around it, and she was able to save up to finance her graduate program. And part of it occurred during the summer because that was the time when she really couldn't afford it. And the program is set up in a way that they learn the ins and outs of budgets, looking at their credit report. If there's nicks on the credit report, how do they repair the credit report? And then creating a budget to kind of follow so that they can achieve the goals that they have, whether it's around the finance of post-secondary education, microenterprise, or putting money down on a house. And then that's for 6 months, and then the next 6 months is asset specific. So if they're going to put money down on a house, they show them how to do that. And Emily, by the way, she, through another program, she was able to get her first home through Habitat for Humanity.
Well, she mentioned that, but
she
they
was
don't
really,
just build it for her. She's got
right.
to take part in it.
Well, you have to take part in the building, and,
Right.
and when you're building the home, you don't actually know which home is going to be yours.
I didn't know that. That's
And then
interesting.
they tell you, and then they do a big celebration. They take the folks there, and they take the kids there, and they introduce them to the home.
Well, that's smart, because this way you got to really pay attention to the
Right.
detail, because that might be your place.
Right,
or it might
exactly.
not be your place.
And we all know that if a home ownership breeds, the goodwill to always want to keep the neighborhood good.
Sure.
So to your point, building the house, they want to make sure that it's built well because they may be living in it.
And now she has, what, 4 children?
She has 3. Yes.
3. Well, I got close.
Yes.
Hopefully for her, she'll stop. But because I've got 2, and that's enough. But yeah, so that's a really great success story. Now we have 9 months, so we got other events that we're going to do.
Yeah, it's a series of them. We'll be posting it on our website once we finalize the dates. In May, we plan on having some sort of cocktail party just to kind of bring folks together and thank them and honor some folks in the community. Kind of the thing about that is we're trying to figure out, honor some of the folks that are veterans in the community and honor some of the folks that are new to the community around the development of the city. And we're looking to do it somewhere in Newark. We haven't quite nailed the place yet. And that's going to be kind of a big thing. And then fast forward to September, we're going to do a run walk throughout the city. And we're working with the city to route exactly where. It won't be in Branch Park where most walks take place.
Yes.
It'll be throughout the city.
Well, that's a county park, so I guess we want to keep it within the context
Right.
of the city. Or in fact, almost all the parks, except for some small ones, are county
Are
parks.
county parks,
Weequahic and all the others. What challenges have we, or has the United Way of Essex West Hudson faced, let's say, over the last 15 or so years that have gotten us to where we are now? Obviously I know the answer. I wouldn't answer the question. I'm not in the OJ trial, but what challenges have we faced that have gotten us to have to deal with situations more uniquely than we used to have, even before you came aboard?
Well, 9/11 is one that kind of comes to mind right away. That was kind of it was before my time, but we felt the impact of it in Los Angeles because we had some donors that were in one of the towers when they went down. And just kind of organizing around it and all the scrutiny that went with it, because folks don't really understand that when you take on something of that magnitude, you really do have to have a criteria in place to make sure that people aren't committing fraud. And if you remember in the newspapers, there was just tons and tons of folks making millions of dollars that were not even anywhere near the towers. So that kind of put United Way in a situation around how do you handle transparency and accountability in a way that folks see it and they honor it, and not just say, okay, you're doing all right with that, but they're actually seeing it on the ground and working with it. Probably the next big thing that kind of came just as I arrived here was the economic downturn. that alone kind of just took people back. Folks who had beautiful homes in the surrounding suburbs, you know, they were like what they call the bonus people. They got big bonuses at the end of the year. They were able to afford these homes. So now they're in a situation where they needed help through United Way to kind of help make their ends meet, because they were living not necessarily paycheck to paycheck, but they're living below their means. So that one. And then the most recent one is Superstorm Sandy, which a lot of damage was done at the shore, but locally in Newark, in the Ironbound section, we're still dealing with it today. There was a lot of damage done, and there's a lot of repair in work, but there's still some folks that are displaced. And one of the reasons they're probably displaced is they're undocumented and are afraid to come forward, and their landlords are not helping with the situation. So as a result of that, we've started the Essex County recovery team that works hard to kind of take care of some of the issues around Superstorm Sandy and prepare in case another storm comes, so that we'll be in a better place than we were, because nobody was ready for the storm. Even though Irene was a year before, it was a little bit different.
Well, I just want two quick personal notes. Well, one not personal. One, there's been a recent story about scores of New York police nailed for claiming they were at 911 and claiming health issues and weren't
Right.
there. So that goes to some of that, and this is not to disparage the police whatsoever,
Right.
because if nothing else, I have to drive home on the Parkway every single day. So, and the Newark police as well are our finest. So I'm not saying that at all. Irene, a tree fell through my house.
Okay.
You know, so I can relate to that. Sandy, we didn't get hit, but my sister-in-law lives in Belmar, and she's on 6th Avenue next to a lake. The ocean came over, lifted. It's a fake lake, so it's, you know, not really no flow into it.
Okay.
Lifted the fake lake onto her entire street. She had to be rescued by boat.
Wow.
Her whole family had to be rescued by boat because it was 5 feet deep water, and they had to take them to higher ground.
Right,
So,
right.
and she spends at least, I think, a month and a half, 2 months in a rented house, paid for, I believe, by FEMA, but still, because the water went halfway up her first floor.
Right.
So she suffered. A lot of people did suffer in Essex
Right.
County and a lot of the northern counties.
Right.
And particularly the Ironbound makes sense because it is lower there, and they do
Right,
have
exactly.
the river and all that kind of stuff. Plus, they have a lot of pollutants down there,
Exactly. Yeah.
which they have to be very concerned
From
about.
previous factories
And per current factories.
Right.
And there was a lot. I mean, I think the Passaic River is one of the most polluted rivers in the country, actually, except now for that one where they just dumped 300,000 gallons. Do you see that?
Which one is that?
I think it was where was it, Jerry? Was it West Virginia? It just happened the other day. West Virginia,
Oh,
I think,
wow.
where they put this plant who makes these very volatile chemicals right on a river.
Right on the river.
And the thing, somehow it broke apart or whatever, and all of this
Flooded into the.
and they couldn't, 300,000 people or whatever couldn't drink water. I
Oh,
think
my
they just
goodness.
still can't. They couldn't drink.
Wow.
You know, so these are the type of things that people face. So do we have any more of the 9 that of the representing?
I mean, we'll compensate in end, excuse me, and with the Ashby breakfast in December.
Now let's get Mr. Ashby.
I mean, not December, but in November.
His significance is what? Besides the fact that I think he lived to be 104 or 101, 102.
Well, you know, I don't know like a great deal about Mr. Ashby, so I'm gonna have to count
Then I'll
on
tell
you
you.
for that. I do know that he was one of the first social workers in
Yes.
the community, and he did a lot of work to enhance the well-being of folks in the community.
Yes, and I believe he was one of the very much involved with the beginning of the community bank
Right.
when the community bank was there. And he was just an amazing man. He wrote several books, and he was very erudite, and he broke many color barriers as well.
Right, exactly.
Because Newark, people may not think about it, but Newark wasn't a predominantly minority town going back in
Right.
the days that he was here. The minority population, particularly African American, came up during World War II for work. So, and they encountered a lot of discrimination. Not that it's gone away, And he was one of the main people who actually were, I believe, led as examples for people like Imam Baraka, who just died,
Right.
and many others in the area that worked to better.
Gus Henningberg.
Gus
and some
Henningberg,
others, yeah.
right? Who actually, funny thing about Gus used to have a TV show on channel, I think it was on channel 7. Good-looking guy, Gus. He used to have the big fro back in the 70s, and years later we honored him at the as an Ashby Award winner.
Mm-hmm, yes.
Were you there for that
No,
one?
I was not.
And I think I was the MC. So as before I got out of hand and people stopped using me. But Gus was so cool. I knew Gus because one, he was one of my instructors at Seton Hall University. Because I was a Black Studies major, undergraduate degree, because I wanted to see the other side of history, because it's always written by the victor, so I wanted to see the other side. It's a long story. I was brought up by very liberal parents. My father Jewish, my mother Catholic. So Gus was also the special master to a case where my organization sued the Housing Authority, not mine, the Housing Authority and HUD to make them replace 2,000 units of housing that they destroyed in Columbus Homes.
Okay.
One for one, which it took them 21, 22 years to do it, but they
Wow.
finally did it. But the funny thing is, at the end of the thing, Gus never wore a tie in his later years, as I. We have an aversion to ties. He was much nicer dressed than I. He had, a suit or a jacket and a polo shirt, but never a tie. So when the thing was over, I said to everybody, you know what? Let's emulate. I meant it. I really am so enamored with Gus for a number of reasons, but he hated me saying that I was a student because it kind of aged him. Because with my gray hair, I'm going, oh yeah, he taught me in college. So I said, let's everybody get rid of our ties. And so everybody, all the guys in the room, took off their ties and flung them, and it was kind of a really nice, nice setting. We got about a minute. What do you want to say to the viewing public? We're going to put this show, by the way, it'll be on our Comcast and our Cablevision, plus it goes onto our website, CWA 1081, whatever it is, but he'll throw it up at the end, Jerry will. And I've offered for you to put it on, the streaming on the United Way website as a lead-in, so people can see this constantly. What do you want to say to people involved regarding the United Way in particular and this celebration?
Well, I want to say one thing. The previous president of United Way, previously the United Federation, said Newark is a contrast city. And today, it's still a contrast city. It's a contrast footprint. We have the rich and the poor living next to each other, and there's still a struggle around equality for a better life for all. And the new middle class is different than the old middle class. So the opportunity is for us to create opportunities for individuals in our communities to help them determine what the new American dream is, because it's not what it was years ago. So I ask that they give, advocate, and volunteer, give of their time and talent and money, volunteer of their time and thought leadership, and advocate for what they feel is right around, we have this constant battle on what's good for our kids. Our babies are failing. We need our community to stand behind something to make sure that our babies start to succeed. So we want to create 21st century citizens. Those are the things. And then giving is one of the easiest ways to help out. If you can't provide
time,
thought leadership, give some money,
cash, exactly.
And we'll take cash, we'll take stocks, we'll take, if you want to leave us in your will, we'll take it. So those are kind of the things, but just help support us around education, income, and health.
All right, and my gift to you will be a handshake and saying a very hearty thank you very much, Keith, for being with us. And thank you for watching Labor's View. I'm David Weiner, and we thank you very much, and I hope to see you in the very near future. Good night.